After watching episode 1 of She-Hulk last week, something occurred to me. I don't think Marvel Studios knows how to write female characters. Now, just hear me out. I'm not some misogynist grifter who hates every movie or show that stars a woman. I'm trying to come from a good place here. I'm actually defending female characters and demanding that they do better. And I've been feeling this way for a few months, but She-Hulk just made it click in my head. So what am I talking about? Number one, I don't see male characters and female characters, white characters and black characters, gay characters and straight characters. I just see characters, and I try to judge them all equally. Sometimes one's gender, race, or sexuality can be a factor in their overall story, but it's usually not what makes a character. Well, at least not a good character. But I've noticed a disturbing trend of shallow, one-dimensional, substandard female characters in the MCU. And with all of their focus on diversity lately, it's hard not to notice. They're pumping out female representation at a rate that hasn't been seen before, and that's not a bad thing. Yeah, let's get some ladies up in here. There are a myriad of great female characters in the comics. Wonder Woman, Storm, Black Canary, Mystique, Magic, Sue Storm, Scarlet Witch, Hawkgirl, Raven, Batgirl, and many, many more. But the way they're deciding to present them in this universe is frankly disrespectful. All of them are either emotional and crazy, obsessing over a man, spunky and naturally talented, or they only care about proving men wrong. Let's go through the list of prominent female characters in the MCU, and you'll start to notice some similarities. Jennifer Walters has zero character in this first episode. This is the origin story that establishes who she is, and I still have no idea who she is. She gets 2 minutes of opening dialogue, she fixates on a man's sex life, then gets in a wreck and becomes She-Hulk. Less than 5 minutes into the episode. 5 minutes. When you're dealing with a monster story like this, you need to know who the person is before the transformation so that you care when they transform. They try to flesh her out throughout her training with Bruce, but all we learn is that she's a woman, she's a lawyer, she's afraid of men, and she wants to prove men wrong at her job. I'm sorry, but that's not a character. If your only quality is that you want to obsess over what other men think and do, you are not a good character. What are her ambitions? What does she want in life? Who is she? Her entire character is predicated on knowing Bruce Banner, and she even gets his hand-me-down powers. I know it happened in the comics, but that doesn't make it not lazy. She is automatically great at everything she tries, she nails being the Hulk, and her biggest struggle in the episode is that she doesn't want to ruin her clothes when she transforms, which perpetuates the stereotype that women only care about fashion and appearance. In trying to create a strong female character, you have done precisely the opposite. No, being catcalled in the street and being afraid to go out at night isn't cool, but that's the extent of who she is. And then she has the audacity to assume that she feels more anger and stress than Bruce purely because she's a woman? Now that is a fundamental problem. Using a character's sex as a shield to distract you from the fact that they have no actual personality or depth. Just watch the Hulk's journey in the MCU and tell me that she has it harder than him. And after she states this, she turns into She-Hulk because she can't control her emotions, so it contradicts her entire point. But because she's a woman, they think that's good enough. You don't need scene after scene fleshing out her character. She's a woman, good enough. Now, she might have a nice, complex arc throughout She-Hulk, so I don't know yet. But so far, the foundation of her character is shit. Captain Marvel had a similar problem. Her entire character was based on proving men wrong. Men bullied me my entire life. Men never believed in me. Time to prove them wrong while Just a Girl by Gwen Stefani plays. What was her character? She had none. She was a cardboard box, and she also didn't even earn her powers. She just so happened to be standing next to an explosion. She didn't have to earn them. She didn't have to go through any trials to prove that she was worthy of them. Therefore, I don't feel a cathartic conclusion to her story because there's no compelling progression. Kate Bishop started off as a spunky fangirl who idolized heroism, and her story ended with her being a spunky fangirl who idolized heroism. At least they try to explain why she's so good at everything by saying that she was entered into a bunch of karate classes as a kid, but it's still pretty flimsy. The entire season, Clint is telling her the importance of responsibility and consequences. You have to take this shit seriously or people will get hurt. And she doesn't take it seriously and no one gets hurt. The consequences they built up never come to fruition. She beats the Kingpin on her first try, her mom gets off easy, no one dies, and everything's good. She doesn't change, she doesn't evolve, she doesn't learn anything. She has no arc. She's the exact same character throughout the entire show, and she's never forced to be anything other than a spunky little girl. Wanda actually had some pretty great development throughout her first few movies. Losing her brother, joining the Avengers, learning responsibility after killing the people in Lagos, having to kill the love of her life to save the universe, then building a fake paradise so that she never has to feel that pain again. She's pretty compelling, until they completely fuck her up in Multiverse of Madness. They reduce her to a crazy, irrational bitch. And even though she was a good character, they couldn't help but ruin it by making her evil. And it just perpetuates the stereotype that, at the end of the day, women are just crazy. I'm sorry, but I don't care about her kids who never existed. This woman has severe mental illness, and that's what she's been reduced to. She straight murders like 50 people in the movie just to get her imaginary kids back, and she's absolutely irredeemable at this point. So even when they have a woman on a great trajectory, they have to fumble it completely. Monica Rambeau. I actually really like her. She's one of the best new characters in my opinion. She never mentions her race or her sexuality. She's just a person with real and raw emotions, trying to adapt to a difficult situation. But she has no arc. She has no change. She has no evolution. She sympathizes with Wanda the entire show, which was okay. I get it. But then she tells the woman that just held an entire town mentally hostage for a month that she did nothing wrong and that they should be thankful. Complete idiocy and an assassination of the goodwill that they built up. Cersei is a stale character with no arc. Her entire character revolves around Icarus and whether or not she still loves him. Athena's story of losing her memory was way more compelling, but they pushed her to the side in favor of another cardboard box whose main point of emphasis is wondering which guy she wants to fuck. Jane Foster was a generic female love interest who only liked Thor for his looks. Their relationship was one of the worst in the MCU because it only relied on physical attraction. Then, because he also thinks she's hot, his hammer gives her his powers, she fights a random villain, and then dies. She doesn't even earn the power. She only gets it because a man loved her. She has no arc. No change. She doesn't learn anything. She doesn't earn anything. And there's no depth to her story. Nakia is just a love interest with no arc. Sif is watered down and turned into an afterthought. Mantis has cool powers, but she has zero depth. Xi Ling is kind of compelling because she actually goes through something. Her brother abandoned her, and her father refused to even look at her, so she had to teach herself how to fight and earn a life on her own. But still, her entire character is based on proving men wrong. Gamora is cool, but what is her character journey? Learning how to have friends? Running from her daddy? She's okay, but it's nothing astounding. America Chavez was a literal plot device, and her character depth was minimal. She lost her parents. Okay, what else? What are her values? What does she believe in? Well, she's spunky. Shuri is just smart. Maybe she'll have an arc in Wakanda Forever, but for now, she's nothing. Yelena has the realization that her entire childhood was fake. But what does that turn into? Where does that conflict lead? One good scene with Red Guardian, and she's just quippy for the rest of the time. From the moment she gets cured to the end of Hawkeye, she's just an upbeat, spunky woman. They try to give her an emotional moment when Clint whistles and makes her remember Natasha, but that entire moment moment is built on the back of an already established character that she's replicating. She can't even get a good moment on her own. Sharon Carter is just a paper-thin love interest for 2 movies, then she has a complete character overhaul off-screen, and we don't even get to see her journey of turning into the power broker. Sylvie was compelling for like 2 seconds when she was introduced, but they took this interesting concept and reduced her to loving Loki, then fucking up the entire multiversal timeline because she couldn't control her emotions. Her arc was revenge? Okay, that can be compelling if she was an interesting character with relatable qualities. But she's not. What were Layla's compelling character traits? Being a spunky adventurer? When it was revealed that Mark was there the day her dad died, they opened the door to some great emotional moments, but they don't follow through on any of it. They immediately kill Mark, she gets superpowers and forgives him, and it's all good. No exploration of the trauma that caused or anything. You finally give this character a chance to have an arc or some sort of compelling character writing, and you bail on it. It's like they literally don't know how to make these women compelling, or they just don't want to put in the effort. I don't know what it is, but it keeps happening. Either their only character trait is wanting to fuck a man or prove a man wrong, they're just spunky, we don't see their character growth on screen, they're a plot device, or they're a cheap knockoff of an already established character. She-Hulk, Hawkeye, Captain Carter, Ironheart, Sylvie, Mighty Thor, etc., etc. And they don't realize that they're actually setting women back when they have these hollow, low-effort characters. It's not enough to just have representation. You need to have well-written and fully realized representation. Since when did being spunky and confident become the base standard of any woman character? You gotta add something else. Remember Steve Rogers' journey? An anorexic loser who couldn't even get into the army, who had to prove himself worthy of the super soldier serum by displaying his immense integrity and heart. A man who lost his best friend, only to have to face him again while wrestling with the idea that the government might not be what he thought and he has to rethink his entire philosophy on life. A man who lost the love of his life, only to meet her again when she's old and has dementia, then had to carry her casket at her funeral, all while dealing with the split up of the Avengers because they couldn't agree on whether they needed government oversight to cross foreign borders and make their own decisions. A man who lost his faith and lost himself, only to regain that faith and become worthy of lifting Mjolnir because of the content of his character. Do you remember that? Or maybe Tony Stark's arc of going from a war profiteering, playboy scumbag who only cared about himself to a man who's willing to lay down his life multiple times in the face of imminent death to save the universe and his family. Or Thor's arc of being a selfish, battle-hungry man-baby who loses his power, learns to respect the creatures he once looked down upon, and learns true humility. Or maybe T'Challa's arc of being a rage-filled murder machine solely focused on revenge, only to realize the error of his ways and choose forgiveness. There are many other examples, but you get my point. I don't understand how they can write such compelling characters. Then when it comes to the majority of the women, they think just having them on screen is good enough. It's not. It's not good enough. And to be fair, there are some really good female characters in the MCU. Black Widow is cool, Okoye is badass, Kamala Khan had a small arc of learning to accept herself, Wasp learned to forgive her dad and be more open to trusting people, Nebula had a decent story of fatherly abuse and sibling jealousy, the Ancient One had a good story showing the lengths someone is willing to go to keep the universe safe. They don't all suck, but that's like 6 out of 40 of them. The percentage of well thought out and well written female characters is very low. And also, to be fair, not all of the male characters are great either. Some of them suck hard and are just as bad. I mean, Hawkeye doesn't have much character depth or growth, and he also comes onto the scene already having his skills. We don't see him earn his powers, we just accept it. And that can be a double standard sometimes, where we might call a female character a Mary Sue will call a male character badass. And I do think that that's a problem. But the percentage of great male characters is far greater than the women, in my opinion. And even while Black Widow did have a good story dealing with family, regret, control, and forgiveness in her own solo movie, she was a nothing character for years, only there for men to look at and make their pee-pees hard. And they definitely leaned into the sexualization of her character many times. Shit, the main reason a lot of people like She-Hulk to begin with is because they think she's hot. Let's stop pretending that reality is something that it isn't. I'm tired of the fans getting blamed for not liking these characters, as if it's our fault that they're written like shit. There's been a really harmful pattern of automatically assuming things about people because of their opinions on pop culture, and it needs to stop. You're not a sexist pig if you didn't like She-Hulk. Some people definitely are, and their criticisms do seem like they're coming from a bad place. But why can't we just criticize bad characterizations without being labeled a misogynist or a man with a fragile ego? No, fuck off. Write a good character and the response will reflect that. Male or female. Character. A good character is a good character. Even the positive reviews of She-Hulk are saying, I love the tone of the show. It's so funny and quirky. I love the fourth wall breaking. I love the cameos. I love the world building. Not too many people are mentioning Jen's incredible character, and I think that's a shame. Tatiana Maslany is giving a great performance, but it's being wasted on terrible writing that generalizes the two sexes and minimalizes actual character growth. And this is becoming more and more of a trend in the MCU. Yes, let's keep getting more diversity. Different races, different sexualities, different backgrounds. Just please stop making that their entire character. People are more than what they're born as. If you relate to that experience that She-Hulk was talking about, okay, I understand. You just have to understand that that's not all women. Different people have different experiences. These companies don't want us to put blanket statements on people, but then they put blanket statements on people. I don't get it. And I know that She-Hulk isn't made for me, but I just miss the days where these movies were universally accessible. It didn't matter your race or gender or background. You could find something to relate to in phases 1 through 3. Most projects had universal human elements and themes that resonated with most people. Now they're making each project with a specific group of people in mind, and that's gonna ostracize a lot of fans. And it's okay to have diversity of content. I don't want to see the same story over and over. Give me different visions, different directing styles, different themes, different visuals. Just please, for the love of God, write better female characters. Alright, I'm done. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. And until we meet again, peace out.